Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners, macabre murders, and captivating crimes from across the centuries, and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 208.
Yes, it is.
Why did you move your microphone then?
Because it was just right in the wrong place.
Right when I was talking.
Yes.
That's fine. Yay! How are you, Nick?
I'm fine.
Are you fine? Are you well?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh,
Are you
never
well?
asked me.
Sometimes I pretend to care.
And with what you give, you taketh away. There it is. Well, I know where I stand. Fine, we've both been a little bit unwell over the last week. You had some sort of horrible flu-y, virusy thing.
And then I probably gave it to you.
But we're well, we're happy, we're back.
We're getting there indeed.
We're
Yes,
getting there
things
indeed.
are on the mend.
We can all breathe easy now.
Bottom you. You can't breathe in that much because you're choked to death.
No, I can breathe easy now because I've got an inhaler for the first time in my 40s. I have an inhaler. And you know what's great? Taking a full breath. Suddenly discovered that. A doctor listened to me.
Not rattling when you breathe.
No, not having a horrible rattling wheezing sound as I'm trying to go to sleep that wakes me up at night. Walking up a hill and losing my breath. Yeah. Turns out life is good, Nick. Life is wonderful.
Hurrah.
Have you ever stopped to smell the flowers?
Have you ever stopped to just breathe?
I need to do one of those Facebook messages, clearly.
Oh,
You know,
right. With the sunset.
Facebook mum, yeah, and breathe. What a day, and breathe. And I'll comment on it going, yes, I will. Thank you very much. Also, ew. Any poisonings this week?
Probably.
Probably?
I'm not paying attention.
Oh, you're not paying attention?
Nah.
To your flinging of poisons?
Oh, yeah, just wherever they land.
What if you were poisoned?
I mean, it's entirely possible.
Has anyone been sneaking around with their fingers in a pyramid shape, sort of like wearing a top hat?
So many.
So many?
So many people. I just put that down to just like, oh, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. You do work in the evil Victorian factory.
Yes.
Where
we produce evil Victorians.
Exactly, and evil sofas as well. You're in quality control. You judge their evilness. And yet everything is fine.
Oh, yeah, everything's fab. Absolutely fine.
Oh, good. Well, speaking of manufacturing evil Victorians and breathing very well while you do it, I think it is time for us to thank our delicious Patreon subscribers.
Absolutely. Full of evil Victorians they are. Thank you very much this week to Hannah McCracken.
To Amy, Sarah.
And to Bethany Schmidt. Thank you very much, you lovely people.
Thank you, you delicious, lovely, lovely people. And we should actually say an apology to last week where we got very excited about Mr. Bridley. Mr.
Yes.
Bridley. He's Mr. Bredley, actually.
My apologies.
Yes. And in true Jane Austen style, he did message us and go, it's actually Bradley, you know. We love you, we love you, we love you. But yes, Mr. Bradley's even better.
Get the names right.
Exactly. Weirdly, he manufactures cakes, not bread.
Is that so?
No, I'm making that up.
Oh.
I made an entire backstory up for him. I would say we'd have fun on Patreon this week. We did have fun on Patreon. We weren't able to put out a Deadly Nightcats episode because I was dying.
Yes.
But we did release a nice fresh batch of bloopers. These were bloopers from season 4 that we've been hanging on to, and they are great. Listening back to them, the amount of things that we mess up on this show is staggering. People ask us, a couple of people have messaged us in the past and gone, you edit the show? I would never have known. Yeah, it's necessary.
Very much so.
Very necessary. People say, don't edit the show. No, you don't want that.
You really don't.
No, but we save the best bits occasionally for outtakes. If you want to know what the hell we're talking about, please consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/The Poisoner's Cabinet, where you'll get an extra episode from us every single week, as well as a bunch of bonus material. Patreon is completely flexible, so go have a look, have a little mosey around if you want to, and message us anytime you want information on ways of supporting us or how to get more from us. You can blackmail us if you like.
Please don't.
Well, Nick, are you ready?
Yeah.
To drink cocktails and talk about poison.
Oh, so many options.
Or we could drink poison and talk about cocktails.
Yes. Let's
Yes.
do that too.
Do you want to do that?
Okay.
Do you want to have some poison?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you have some poison?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, you answered that way too quickly. Have you been waiting for this moment?
I've been waiting a long
Don't pick up...
4 years.
Don't pick up your glass and swill it while you're saying that. I'm going to vote we go with the first one. I don't
Okay.
like the way this conversation is going.
Boring.
Okay, fine. Well, hooray, hooray, hooray. It is Nick's story this week, but we can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell, and it will flavour our cocktail of the week. Nick, your story, your pick.
Yes.
And this week's secret ingredient is...
Chicago.
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 Chicago. Chicago. Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago. Or Chicago,
Chicago.
as some people like to pronounce it. Or just Chicago. It's a lovely place.
Shall we go with Chicago?
It's a place.
Yeah, it is
a
a
place
place.
in America. It's a
Yes.
city. It's very nice.
Yes, it's all those things.
Yes, I've heard people always say go to Chicago. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to be very, very nice indeed. It's one of the
incredible.
places I would like to go to.
Do we know anyone from Chicago? Would you like to message us and tell us how beautiful it is? Please do.
Or how dreadful.
Oh, maybe it is dreadful.
Maybe it's just awful.
Or maybe it's middling.
And so just don't come here. It's dreadful.
They're gatekeeping
Or
it.
don't come here. It's all mine.
If someone said don't come here, I'd be like, no, what are you hiding?
Yes.
You're hiding the good cheese.
You're hiding exciting things.
The Chicago cheese. But with Chicago as your inspiration, your ingredient,
Yes.
what have you come up with?
We are having this week.
Huh?
We are going to have
Yes.
a South Side.
A south side.
Yes.
Is that what? What? I don't understand.
Which is an area of Chicago.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Oh.
Which becomes most important in the story.
Oh, okay.
So, yes.
Yay! Sorry, I didn't understand any of that. A south side, but that's a famous cocktail.
It is well known cocktail, yes.
It is a
indeed.
very well-known
Yes.
cocktail. Didn't we used to drink
We used
them
to
a
drink
lot?
we used to drink them with the full stuff.
Have we had a south side before?
We haven't.
We haven't.
We have done
A south side Ricky.
which I'm not making because it's a different cocktail. It's still a very different cocktail, but it's a different cocktail.
Hey, look, it's season 5. We said
Yeah.
we can always do more witches if needs be.
It's a different cocktail.
It's a different.
a different
The way
cocktail.
that your eyes have widened and you
It's a
are
different
nodding
cocktail.
frantically makes me worried. But that's fine. Okay, a south side. We haven't had one in a very long time though, so I have actually forgotten what's in it.
Okay.
So this is going to bode well. I think it is high time for us to. What do they do in Chicago? The dances. Why did I say it like that? What the fuck?
Traditional Chicagonese dance.
I was trying to say, what do they do in the musical Chicago? But at the same time, I was like, no, there's a dance in Chicago. None of that came out right. Let me just go into the Poisonous Captain kitchen.
Shall we? Shall we jazz hands our way across?
There we go. I think it is high time for us to jazz hands our way into the Poisonous Captain kitchen and shake up a storm. So see you in a minute.
Yeah, bye.
And we're back.
Hello.
So, Nick,
Yes.
the original South Side?
South Side.
Now, as I said, I don't remember what's in a South Side. We had a
Okay.
period of time where we drank a lot of them.
We used
but
to drink a lot of them.
We did, but we also used to drink a lot of stuff.
This is also true.
And so that's why there's a whole year of my life that I don't remember. But I
Okay.
see a lime at the top of this.
Yes.
Is it a dehydrated lime?
No.
Or is it not?
No, it's just a slice
it's
of
just
lime.
a slice of lime. You
Yes.
have an air fryer. You can dehydrate
Yes,
stuff.
But I only bought the limes today.
Oh, okay, right. You haven't spent 8 hours dehydrating them?
Unfortunately not.
My God.
But I bought many a lime, so I may well do.
Commit to this show, goddammit. Well, it looks very nice and looks very crisp, which is welcome on a warm day. So I think, well, we should dive in.
Indeed.
Reconnect with our past.
Quite.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. That's very pleasant.
Oh, that is very pleasant. I'm remembering why we drank these.
Yeah. It's coming back to you.
Oh, that is very pleasant.
Yeah.
That is good. Okay, there's lime.
There's lime.
Is there lime? Or was that
There
lime?
is. There's definitely lime.
Now, is there mint in this?
Yes.
Is it just fresh mint?
Just fresh mint.
Because I think I see a trace of some mint.
Mm-hmm.
but
It's
you're
not quite as minty as I was hoping it was going to be.
No, that's good for me.
I should have added a touch more mint.
I don't think you should.
Okay.
Because I find fresh mint
It
cocktails.
can be overpowering, yes.
Every time we've done them, to my palate, too much. This, you played a blinder. Okay. Mint, sugar,
Yep.
lime. What's the other thing? It's not gin.
Yes, it is.
Is it? Shit, I was so sure it was rum.
The one thing it's absolutely definitely not.
It's definitely not gin.
No, it's gin.
Was it just gin?
It's just gin.
Okay, is that it?
That's it.
Yay! Oh, what a
That's
classic.
it. Yeah. You can't go far wrong.
No, you really can't.
Now, I mean, traditionally, you'd have a South Side fizz.
Right.
Was the sort of original sort of prohibition one, which was basically this topped up with soda water, with a lot of ice and topped up with soda.
So
where you
how
get
is
your fizz from.
that different, though, from the Southside Ricky?
Ricky has lemon juice as well.
Oh, okay.
It's very much the same. It has lemon juice as well. You also have the Southside Royale, where instead of soda water, you have champagne or prosecco or something like that.
Nice.
And this one came along later. It's just the Southside because it's got no fizz or soda water or anything like that in there. It's just
Delicious.
Southside. So yeah. So those are the variations on a theme
I'm glad that we've got this on here because not having done this, the plainest version of it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is that the right way of saying it?
The original version, I think, is the Southside Ricky. Southside Fizz and the Southside Ricky are the original sort of ones.
Oh, okay.
This came along a bit later when spirits didn't need quite as much dilution. When they were slightly purer after Prohibition. When you're not looking at bootleg shit. When you can actually just have some nice gin, and then something like this comes along.
That's great. Oh, I had never thought of it that way.
Whereas before you sort of might need to dilute it because it may not be quite as palatable. So that's why you had a lot of soda water and things like that.
For God's sake, put some seltzer in here. This is just made out of rats and lies. It is delightful.
Very pleasant.
It's been so long, as I've said, that we've had a Southside. We used to drink them a lot. I don't know why we stopped drinking them.
Probably just drank too many of them.
Maybe we drank too many of them and then forgot what we were ordering. Yeah. And we also frequented a bar where we had a very good mixologist and he made a great Southside. He took great pride in it. Then he left and really recreating it. It's not something I've actually asked for in a cocktail bar in a very long time. No. And it's such a simple, easy drink to make. You've got mint in there. It's way better than mojito.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. People who like a mojito, get on the Southside.
Yep.
It is delicious. Another sip, just to make sure. Just to make sure. It's not like I'm going to leave this, by the way. You've mixed that really well.
No, I'm pleased with that. That
is really good. And thank you for not putting too much mint in there. I don't know. How much mint did you use out of curiosity?
That's probably about 8 or 9 leaves. But they're relatively small leaves, sort of thing. They're not massive leaves.
Not huge leaves.
Not huge leaves.
That you've grown in your garden. Dialing down on the mint was a good idea. Because otherwise it would be too overpowering. It would be toothpastey. Delicious, delightful, with the Southside firmly in hand.
Yes.
Is it time for a story, Nick?
Probably.
Oh, yeah, hey!
Hurrah!
It's your story.
Is it? Oh,
yep.
Shit.
Oh, please, sir, please can we have a story?
This is a serious grown-up time.
Okay.
Because this week, we have the story of the most famous gangster of all time. The archetypal mobster. Dear Mr. Al Capone.
Oh, wow. I wondered. Chicago. Al Capone.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Someone said, H.H. Holmes, done him.
Yeah, I know. We have done
him.
But then someone else went, Al Capone.
Al Capone. Yeah. So now, indeed, Al Capone, who's been on the list for a long time.
He has, yeah.
So one of the ones we haven't covered yet.
You got to him first.
Yeah, well, indeed. And this is a man who, at the peak of his criminal empire, is earning about $100 million a year. And that's 1920s money. Right. This is not exchanged until sort of 21st century money. This is $100 million in the 20s, which you could buy most of the world. Yeah.
Did he, though?
Apparently so.
When I hear stuff like that, I always go, we didn't.
Well, it's an awful lot of money.
He has a lot of money. He could just say, I have $100 million a year. Can I check?
Everyone believed him.
No.
It's all in that room over there. Can I go in that room? No.
No, you can't.
This is a secret
I have
room.
this baseball bat. Now, I will jump in occasionally with jokes from The Simpsons and The Untouchables based around Al Capone.
That's going to be fun.
I'm trying to remember them. I may not remember them.
Or you'll remember them 5 minutes too late, and then it'll be hilarious. Remember that thing you said half an hour ago? There's a really funny thing to say about that.
Not some person who's playing by his own rules. Giving you the thrashing of your life. Stop that. Simpsons fans are laughing their asses off right now.
It's hilarious.
I'm done. Please tell me the story. Please tell us the story.
Should I just hand it over to you? Do you want to do it in the form of The Simpsons?
I think it's important that you don't.
But I'll say Al Capone, but he is not born into the mafia life.
No, okay.
He's not born. So he works his way up from poor immigrant man to become the most infamous and wanted man in America. So let's start at the beginning.
Shall we?
Shall we start at the beginning? It's a very good place to start.
Very good place to start.
Alphonse, dear old Alphonse.
He is Alphonse.
He's born in Brooklyn on the 17th of January, 1899.
So he's not an immigrant?
His parents were immigrants.
Right.
His parents, only very, very recently emigrated from Italy. They've come from a little village just outside Naples.
Ooh, no.
But they've come seeking a better life. So his father, Gabrielle, and his mother, Teresa.
Nice.
Capone.
Good Catholic names.
Indeed. Now, Gabrielle here is a barber, and Teresa, she's a seamstress. And they live a very sort of average immigrant lifestyle, big old sort of tenement block in New York. They end up with 8 children. So there's a lot of them crammed into this wee little apartment.
Mostly their children.
Mostly,
they ended up with 8 children.
They ended up with 8 children, yes.
Amass them.
Yeah, they just pick them up off the street, sort of steal them from people, borrow them to get some more in. But they're all crammed into this apartment. Now, young Alphonse, he's a relatively good student. He attends the local elementary school, but as he gets older, he begins falling behind in class. He's forced to repeat the 6th grade, which is 11, 12 years old for those who aren't in America.
Thank you, I didn't know.
Yep. So he had to repeat that year, and he finds it sort of increasingly difficult to abide by the very strict Catholic rules that the school is run by. So a lot of nuns hitting people with pianos, pews, other children, other nuns probably. So
I would laugh more heartily, but I can well believe it, to be honest. If you've never been beaten by a piano-wielding nun, then are you really a Catholic?
Exactly. So he struggles with this environment, unsurprisingly, and he starts skipping school.
He struggles with the fucking piano beating.
Yeah, I mean, others just take it in their stride.
Others just take it in their stride.
But no, Alphonse, he's not happy about it.
He's not happy by being battered.
He starts skipping school. He starts hanging around by the Brooklyn docks, just as something to do. He still goes to class occasionally. On one day when he is 14 years old, one of his teachers strikes him for rudeness. So gives him a clip round the ear for insolence. Now, Capone, he's knowing none of that, and he gives the teacher a wallop back.
Ooh, Jesus.
Which does not go down well.
Not famously, no.
Famously not. He's sent to the principal, who again gives him a beating, as is the style of the time.
Yes.
And he never returns to the classroom. Some people say that he was expelled due to this incident. He was expelled from school. Mm-hmm. Others say that he was like, "Fuck that! I'm not going back." He's never to return to a learning environment.
I don't really blame him. And he's got some, cojones. To use the parlance of the time.
Indeed, yeah.
To actually walk out and go, no, I'm not gonna. And his parents would probably be quite strict with him.
One would imagine, yes. So we don't really know what his parents thought of this. Yeah, not returning to school, either because he's been expelled or he's just going, no, I'm not going back to school.
It's not good either way.
Either way, yeah, it is not. It's not particularly good. But yeah, so he's no longer attending school, so he starts to work odd jobs. He works in a bowling alley. He works in a candy store for a couple of years. In his sort of mid-teens, he's actually a semi-professional baseball player. So it must be like a junior league type thing. So yeah, he actually plays baseball for a couple of years.
That's the reference in The Untouchables, by the way.
Oh, is it?
I mean, I'm assuming that.
Okay.
I put 2 and 2 together. He beats a man to death with a baseball bat.
Let's go with that. But the candy stores and bowling alleys, and he works in an ammunition plant at one point as well.
Great. Excellent.
They're really not what he's interested in doing as a career full time. And he starts spending more and more time among the street gangs in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He becomes a member of the Junior 40 Thieves.
Yay!
Which does sound like a talent competition. Really doesn't. It's like the Junior X Factor type thing.
Just lining up to do an a cappella version of something.
He's in the Junior 40 Thieves. But they teach him the skills he needs to sort of survive and prosper working on the streets.
Yeah.
In short succession, he moves on from the 40 Thieves. He goes to the Bowery Boys. Yeah. He's a member of the Brooklyn Rippers. And he ends up at the 5 Points Gang, which are based in Lower Manhattan.
So exciting.
One of the big gangs of New York.
Oh, you said the name of the film.
I said the name of the film there.
Gangs in New York. We're not basing our entire knowledge on that film. Nick clearly hasn't. He's done research. But the rest of us, no.
On that lovely Scorsese documentary we've all watched.
Hey, you know what? He spent 20
I don't
years...
care.
I could talk about Scorsese for a while.
I know you could, so let's not.
It's absolutely fine.
It is during his early days in these gangs, when he's running odd jobs, and messenger boy, that sort of thing, that he first meets a chap called Johnny Torrio. Nice. Now, Johnny, he's an older guy. He runs a numbers racket and a gambling operation quite near the Capone family home. And Johnny takes the young Al Capone under his wing. He provides introductions deeper into the sort of criminal networks of New York. He teaches him various tricks of the trade, the way to go, and Capone quickly develops a skill with numbers and bookkeeping. Now, so apparently he obviously benefits from a more practical learning than classroom maths, because he excels in this sort of in this bookkeeping and and mathematics that he never showed an aptitude for at school, but when it's actually real world use, he loves it.
Well, had he not shown an aptitude at school, or was he just not with the discipline?
I think the discipline was an issue at school.
His intelligence wasn't under question.
Exactly, and it's also very hypothetical when you're doing maths. But he's actually like real world sort of application. Some people are more practical. Learners, and they learn through doing and rather than through the hypothetical ways of. If
X equals Y and this, but
if you're doing I've got this many drugs and I've sold them for this much money. How many drugs have I got left?
Maybe this is how much money we have.
Maybe
before they moved on to vice. God, Jesus.
That's not how things work in the criminal networks.
Right, you're going to handle all our drugs immediately, child, that we've just hired.
You're about 16, you're fine. You're a man fine. Now.
You're a young, hormonal man. This cocaine will not pose a problem at all. Carry on.
Okay, it's Johnny Torrio. I'm probably pronouncing his name horrendously, but it's Johnny who introduces a 16-year-old Al Capone to another gangster, a chap called Frankie Yale. Now, like Torrio, Frankie had started off with illegal gambling and running numbers, although he's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's a bit more hands-on, and he quickly moves into racketeering. He actually takes control of the ice trade in Brooklyn, the ice delivery trade.
Oh, okay.
In Brooklyn, which is a big thing. Time sort of massive ice box coming off ships and off rivers and stuff like that.
Refrigerators or freezers.
No, well, exactly, none of that. So he takes control of the whole operation. Now he's either sort of shutting his competitors down through intimidation and threats, or forcing them to pay him protection money. To operate within the borough.
We should probably make it clear that the ice trade back then really was the ice trade. It's not like ice now, which is drugs.
Yeah, yes, actual ice.
Actual ice. There may have been drugs involved, but it was actual ice.
Yes, that you couldn't just go to the freezer and get a bag of ice. So he has the monopoly on ice, and he uses the profits from this monopoly, and he opens the Harvard Inn bar on Coney Island.
Okay.
So this sort of like restaurant.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, restaurant, bar. And he employs Al Capone as a bartender and a bouncer. So
nice.
A bit of both. And it's one night while he's working on the door at the Harvard Inn that Capone makes an indecent remark to a woman who's come into the bar. Capone says something, we don't know what, but the woman's brother, who is accompanying her, overhears and does not take too kindly to this comment that has been made. He takes out his knife and he slashes Capone 3 times on his face, on the left side of his face, leaving him with 3 deep scars. And this earns him the lifelong nickname of Scarface.
I didn't know where we got his scars from.
Yes, so he's incredibly young. He's like 16, 17 at this time, working in the door of this bar. And he gets these scars that young. Yeah. And he absolutely hates the nickname. He hates being called Scarface.
Really?
He absolutely hates it. I mean, in the future, whenever he's photographed or anything, he always makes an effort to hide the left side of his face so people can't see it. And if it is ever talked about, he claims it's a war wounds.
Yes.
He earned in combat. Now, he actually never saw military service. But he rather than a barroom brawl, he got the wounds in combat. I think, which is not true at all, but he hated the nickname. How
did that emerge? How did people find out? Did he later talk about it? Or?
I think it must have been people. I mean, there are obviously other people in the bar, other people there. Frankie Yale, who was a big time gangster as well. Other people there. The good chap who actually did it as well. So it would have come out that I'm the one who did that, or no, I was there. I witnessed that he didn't get it. In fucking First World War, he did not leave the States during that.
He was there cheering them on.
So when Capone is 19 years old, he marries May Claflin. Now this is just about 2 weeks after the birth of their first child, so cutting it fine, if not going a bit over. Really.
Right.
For the time, it would have been quite the scandal, one would imagine.
Gordon has come out there, hasn't she?
Now, Albert Francis is the lad's name. And his former boss and his friend Johnny Torrio, he is Godfather. He is named Godfather to the child. So obviously they're keeping close. Now Capone, he's got a family to look after. He's got a wife, he's got a son to look after. So, now it is time, he thinks, I'm going to make an honest go of things. Enough of that. He'd been dabbling in this criminal stuff, but no, need to grow up, need to get a proper job.
Fair play.
And knowing his skills with numbers and bookkeeping are an asset, he moves to Baltimore and he takes a job as a bookkeeper for a construction company.
Okay. What did you just
call
that place?
Why did I call it Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. When I said it, I thought, I said that really weird.
And you know what? People in Baltimore may enjoy that.
Where that came from, I have no idea.
Fair enough. You know what? People locally might say that don't think they do. So it's in Baltimore.
He's in Baltimore. And he's, booking for this construction company. Things are going great. Yeah, fine. On the straight and narrow. Marvellous. Does not last long, surprisingly. As we could probably tell. His father dies of a heart attack. He finds himself having to provide not only for his wife and son, but also his mother, his younger siblings. So he's going, shit, I cannot provide for all these on a bookkeeper in Baltimore's salary. It's just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So he reaches out to his old chum, Johnny Torrio.
Yeah.
He is now in Chicago.
Hey!
And Johnny invites Capone to come to Chicago and start working with him, and Capone jumps at the opportunity.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not?
He gave it a go.
He gave it a go, absolutely, but circumstances have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs more money,
Yeah.
and a mate's got a job.
Yeah.
Off he goes.
Man's got a job.
Now, Torrio, he moved to Chicago in 1919. Now, the move itself was at the invitation of crime boss James Big Jim Colissimo.
Yeah.
Now, Big Jim has got his hand in everything across Chicago. He runs a string of eventually over 200 brothels across the city. One of the first of which was named the Victoria after his wife, which I'm sure she was delighted about.
I don't think we should dig too deeply into that, whether or not she was happy. And
so
there
perhaps she was. Perhaps she was. I don't know. She ran the place. I don't know.
She might have run the place. She might have come from there. She might have had nothing to do with it whatsoever and lived on the finery from it.
Yes, and I'm sure she did that.
Yes, and turned a blind eye. So she was like, yeah, okay, you know what? Never mind.
He soon moves into racketeering, protection, loan sharking. He's basically running the criminal underworld of Chicago with Johnny Torrio as his right-hand man, as enforcer. Now, when Prohibition hits in the 1920s, many gangs see huge profits from bootlegging. They are bringing in illegal alcohol into the country and selling it off at a huge margin. But Big Jim, for whatever reason, decides no, he doesn't want any part of this trade. He doesn't want it. Now, many of his subordinates, including Johnny Torrio, are imploring their boss to go, this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of money to be made in this new trade. But for whatever reason, Big Jim is not interested. There are some sort of reports. Big Jim he's separated from his wife. He's remarried. Some people think that his second wife is trying to coax him away from the life of illegality.
It's always a dame, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting in the way and persuading him against these things.
Oh,
Who
yes.
knows? But some other rival gangs in the city are starting to get increasingly rich and increasingly powerful off the profits they're making from this. On the 11th of May 1920, Big Jim drives to one of his restaurants to meet an associate. A few minutes after he enters the building, he is shot and killed by a gunman who's hiding in the cloakroom. It is alleged that Frankie Yale, the chap who owns the bar in New York, has been hired to travel down from New York to kill the Chicago crime boss at the behest of Johnny Torrio. Johnny has grown tired of his boss's stubborn, inexplicable refusal to take advantage of the opportunities that Prohibition has introduced and decided, no, he's got to go.
Yeah.
He's got to go. After Big Jim's death, Torrio quickly takes over the Chicago gang and invites his protege Al Capone to join him in Chicago. Capone leaves his wife and son in New York for the time being.
Goodbye.
While he moves down to Chicago and gets settled into his new job. Now, Capone brings with him his street smarts and his mathematical bookkeeping expertise to the Chicago operation, and Torrio quickly recognises, okay, here is a man who is capable and experienced. He knows what he's doing. I mean, he's only in his 20s by this point, but he has got a wealth of experience behind him. So he actually becomes a partner in the gang. He is equally in command. Him and Johnny, they are at the top there.
He's not just more muscle. He also brings some brain power.
He brings
with him.
brains to it as well.
Strategy.
Absolutely. But the major difference between them is Johnny Torrio, he likes to keep a bit of a low profile. He likes to keep his head under the radar. Capone, not so much.
Not so much.
Not
no,
so much.
No.
He quickly gets a bit of a reputation. He's a drinker. He's a rabble-rouser. He likes his fancy things. He likes his nice suits and his jewellery and his cigars and all these things. He likes showing off the money that he is now earning. On one occasion, he's pissed out of his head. He's driving along and he hits a taxi cab while he's driving. He is arrested for this, and Johnny is forced to use his sort of city connections and government to make sure his partner gets out of jail with no charges at all. It doesn't really affect Capone and what he does. He just makes him feel even more invincible.
Yeah,
really, that he's now got this immunity and can do whatever the fuck he likes. He also makes the most of his wife's absence and takes advantage of the extensive network of brothels that the gang control, and it's during one of these encounters that he contracts syphilis.
Famously.
Which
will come back to
haunt him, indeed. Now, I mean, he is well aware of the infection at the time, and it is likely that treatment, if he had sought it, would have cured it. But for whatever reason, he decides against going for medical advice, against going for any sort of treatment, and he just leaves it. And it gets worse and worse and worse, and we shall discover how bad it gets not too soon.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a stigma about going actually and seeking help for
maybe
STD. That, real men didn't really get that. It's a very outdated, very crazy kind of perception.
But in the 20s, is that exactly? Was he just embarrassed about going to a doctor?
Well, you have to get like a doctor who's on the mob, and like if you have one, and be able one that you can trust, and if you and after you get the treatment, you probably put a bullet in it.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you want it getting out that you've caught? But for whatever prideful reason, which probably is, he decides to not seek treatment and just leave it, which will come back to haunt him.
And haunt all the other prostitutes who have to deal with him and go, that is bubbling.
Yes,
right
that's not meant to be fizzy. In 1923, Capone's family arrived in Chicago from New York. They've made the trip down. But this is not only his wife and son, but his mother and his younger brothers and his sister all rock up in Chicago.
Hey, he's a family man.
Exactly. They brought the family with him. Okay. And he buys a nice little modest house in the middle-class suburb of Southside.
Yay! There's the drink!
In Chicago.
And there's gin aplenty for all.
Gin aplenty for all.
Not so much mint.
With Big Jim out the way, Torrio and Capone, they take the gang into the bootlegging business, absolutely. But they're behind the curve now. They've got some ground to catch up on their rivals.
Fair.
Other gangs, as I say, have already staked their claims across Chicago, supplying various speakeasies and bars and what have you. Torrio is wary of being openly hostile to his rivals. He much prefers to negotiate. Yes, there might be some strong arming on that, but he's not really looking for open warfare on the streets. He's much rather negotiate, just buy out their business if he can. Just here's what to catch, fuck off, type thing. But sometimes a spot of violence can't be avoided in these situations, and Capone is happy to play enforcer, and there are vicious beatings. The threats are much worse to come if people don't do what they're told. I mean, there are accounts of other gang leaders being gunned down literally in the streets, and unsurprisingly it's always the one sort of leader is taken out. The person who comes to replace them is always much more willing to negotiate. They're always much more open to compromise.
Well, wouldn't you be?
Now, it's either because they're scared or they are on the payroll of that. They say, we need to take you out, all right, and you're actually our inside man.
So a conversation has been had on the sly.
Yeah, we take the boss out. You're in control.
You're going to be looked after, mate. You're just going to come onto our side, or have you just seen your boss shot in the head and beaten to death?
Precisely.
How are you feeling about not playing ball right now?
So it's not much of a choice, really, that these people are given. They either capitulate or they themselves are taken out by the gang.
Can you imagine, like, their boss is shot dead and horribly gunned down, and they stand up in whatever meeting it is. I'm going to honour his memory. I'm going to lead it the same way.
Yeah.
Right. Who's next?
Who's number 3?
Okay. Well, I think he had a point. Right. I don't have enough bullets Could you all just get the message?
Just, come on. We know how this is going to end. Now, the gang, which becomes known as the Chicago Outfit, swiftly becomes the biggest importer of bootleg alcohol into the city.
We all need a drink.
We all need a drink indeed. Now, Capone organises frequent trips across the border into Canada to arrange shipments of dodgy alcohol, and most of Chicago's law enforcement and politicians have been paid to just look over there. Look over there. And hundreds of barrels come rolling through down the streets.
Just looking away for a long
time. Just look the other way. We've got tankers of the stuff coming in.
What's that noise? Nothing. Elephants on parade. Shut up.
On one occasion, Al Capone is asked by a reporter if he was acquainted with a chap called Rocco Perry, and he is known as Canada's king of the bootleggers. Capone replies, "Why, I don't even know which street Canada is on." He has no clue.
He walks away. The reporter's going, "It's not what I asked."
It's not what I asked, but yeah.
What?
But okay.
Well, no.
And I think that's time for a wee break. Oh, not a drink.
Let's have a drink.
Let's have a drink.
Nick, we have our drinks.
You do.
We have more Southsides.
Marvellous.
We need to know what's going on with Mr. Capone.
Mr. Capone.
And what's going on with all these bootleggers.
All these bootleggers.
All this alcohol that's flowing into America. Horrible, horrible stuff.
At the end of 1923, Chicago elects a new mayor. Now, this mayor has run on a campaign of cleaning up the city. He is done with corruption. That's going to end. None of this. He is going to clean the place up. Now, Torrio and Capone are somewhat wary of this chap and go, "Ooh, that's not ideal for us." Torrio and Capone are rather concerned that all of their paid-for politicians are about to be booted out of office.
Oh, I suppose the new mayor is going to bring
the
his
new
own
mayor
people.
is exactly. He's going to bring in his clean sweep, get rid of all the people, the dodgy people, bring in his own trustworthy people. Everyone that Capone and Torrio have spent the last God knows how many years giving nice backhanders to, they're going to be out on their ear.
Yeah, another Simpsons reference is Rex Banner.
It's
He comes
much
in,
like Rex Banner.
He's like, "How do you know you don't want a bribe if you've never taken one? Hey, this is kind of nice." "No, I don't." Yep.
Yeah, so they decide they're going to move their base of operations out of Chicago City and into the suburban area of Cicero. Now, it's just outside the city limits, so they have got a bit more flexibility to do what they want. But then, in 1924, there is a mayoral election in Cicero, with another chap running on the same principles. "I'm going to clean up this town. We're going to get rid of the mob. We're going to get rid of corruption."
It's become weirdly bad
I know.
in the last couple of years.
What's going on?
Well, I'm going to roll up my sleeves here.
Now, Capone and Torrio go, "Well, we're not moving again."
Yeah, because the next town over is terrified.
It's a lot of work to move over. So they go, "Okay, no, we need to continue doing business here." Yeah. So they decide they're going to launch their own campaign of intimidation on election day to ensure that the right candidate gets the votes that they need.
And I'm just going to point out we are recording this before Election Day in the UK. By the time this comes out, hopefully by the various gods we will have a new parliament.
Fingers crossed.
We damn well better. But also,
I'm also hoping there won't be mobsters outside the polling stations.
We still have time to launch a campaign of intimidation.
This is very true.
We can take you and I can take inspiration from this and not do any of it, obviously, because that would be wrong.
Various mobsters are posted outside polling stations on the morning of the elections to persuade voters to make sure they put the check in the right box.
Aren't they swinging baseball bats? Or just sort of like punching the fist into the other hand?
Yeah. In one particular polling station, voters don't take kindly to this intimidation.
Yeah.
And several of them are shot.
Jesus Christ. What?
In the streets. Several mobsters go, "Right, okay, no, they get slightly carried away and end up shooting the electorate."
No, they went all out there, isn't it?
They went all out on intimidation, indeed. Now, in response, Chicago, they send armies of police into Cicero and a street battle ensues in which Capone's own brother, Frank, is shot. He survives, but he's quite badly wounded in this shootout outside a polling station.
It's quite a different vibe to what we will see tomorrow.
I'm hoping it's going to be quite a different vibe.
Well,
yes.
because generally it's just some very retired people, the Lib Dems. It's always the fucking Lib Dems who are standing there going, "Can I just ask how you vote? Can I do the exit poll, please?" Imagine if you said no and the Lib Dems shot you.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Out comes the Tommy gun.
Exactly. Like, well, this was not in line with anything that you said.
It's a dangerous thing, voting.
It's a dangerous thing. Yeah, everyone take care.
No,
You've already voted. Well, I hope you survived.
In January 1925, after an attempt on his life by rival mobsters, Johnny Torrio decides he's had enough. He's had this is no longer the life for him.
Wow.
And he leaves the business and he returns to Italy.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
to retire in peace.
Well, that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, well, indeed. So he's made a decent chunk of money. He's going back home.
But
he leaves the entire operation absolutely to Al Capone. He is now head of the Chicago outfit. He is now kingpin. Now, unsurprisingly, as usual, Capone completely ignores the advice. Keep your head down. Lay low. Keep your head down. Don't get too carried away. Go under the radar. And you'll be great. Capone, no. he pretty much the next day he moves the operation back from Cicero back into Chicago. He now takes pretty much the entire floor of the Metropole Hotel is now sort of the Capone criminal offices.
Yeah, he was full-on showboating.
Absolutely,
fashion forward.
Definitely.
I will rule by intimidation and by presence.
And by glamour. Indeed.
And by glamour, and backed it up with a lot of strategy. You can't deny that it worked.
Well, yeah, I mean, he starts living an incredibly luxurious lifestyle and a very public lifestyle as well. He is not afraid to court publicity and court the media. He spends money lavishly, though always in cash to avoid any sort of trail. Never lines of credit or anything like that. Always in cash. Yeah,
sounds like a solid plan. Won't have any repercussions.
He's always keen to court the press. He laughs off claims that he's a gangster, he's a mobster. Nonsense. He's a businessman. He's a successful businessman. Yes, he can be ruthless, but you have to be in business. But he's just your average successful businessman.
100% legitimate businessman.
100% legitimate businessman. He increases his support to various political funds, to police funds, all this sort of stuff. Bribes? No. I am a wealthy businessman. I'm just in a very fortunate position to give donations to relevant parties.
Donations?
Absolutely.
That's all they are.
I'm spreading my luck and my wealth and my good fortune amongst my fellow citizens. Yes. If they should feel compelled to owe me a favour maybe down the line, that's on them. And that's on them, and that's very generous, but that's on them. I'm not expecting anything. It's entirely coincidental.
I gave them this money, and one of the $100 bills happened to be wrapped around a bullet. I don't know what they misconstrued from that.
No, I know. Now, the press avidly follow Capone's every move, and he is able to gain a huge amount of public sympathy. He's a very gregarious, generous, personable character. And the increasing public resentment around prohibition, the public are getting pretty pissed off that they can't have a fucking beer at the end of the day. They're not enjoying this, and they come to see Capone as some sort of like Robin Hood figure. Yes, he might be doing something a bit shady, but it's for the good of the people. He's supplying people with what they want and all this. So he's a good old boy, really, and everyone fucking loves him.
Well, it was a very popular, solid opinion.
Absolutely, that it was.
Take the drink away from people, and we'll make messiahs.
Yeah. So there is this huge media bias towards him. There is the political and sort of law enforcement. Those obstacles have been nicely greased, shall we say. Ew. And he becomes more and more ambitious with what he thinks he can achieve. And he begins to think that he is untouchable.
You said it.
I said the thing.
You said the thing.
Violence on the streets increases hugely. Those who refuse to submit to his authority, soundly beaten, if not killed. Any establishment that refuses to buy their bootleg liquor from the outfit, generally their buildings end up exploding.
Yeah.
And it is thought that throughout the 1920s, over 100 people lose their lives in bombings that Capone's men, take out these rival establishments who refuse to work with Capone.
I suppose the bombings, just to say that the bombings are so striking as an action, a way of a method of war as well, is that if you're trying to intimidate people, if you're trying to control a city, you're blowing up portions of it and blowing up people, but it fucking makes a statement.
Oh God, absolutely.
It's not a good statement.
Yeah.
It's not.
But it gets your message across.
I mean, it's short-sighted. I'll say.
No, I would agree absolutely.
Know,
because
you need buildings.
Yeah, you wanted that bar.
Yeah.
Because that bar was going to earn you money, and now you've blown it to pieces.
In his pace, it's like, let's just like, well, he doesn't like it. I will kill everybody. If I can't have it, no one will.
Well, exactly. That's exactly the mentality. If I can't have it, then no one's going to fucking have it.
I know. It's a bit mad.
Yeah.
It's a bit. If you've not thought this through.
Yeah, not the long-term picture. But I mean, he is still raking in millions from the bars and the brothels and the rackets and stuff he's got. So what's one bar here or there?
And the supporting buildings as well around us.
Yeah, for whatever reason, he realizes, okay, well, fine, they're expendable.
Totalitarianism, isn't it?
As this violence increases, Capone's sort of media persona starts to turn from this Robin Hood figure into a much more violent and brutal gangster. The media sort of perception of him switches quite swiftly, really, and his popularity really starts to wane amongst the people. In 1926, two of Capone's sort of sworn enemies are spotted in Cicero, his old sort of hangout. Capone orders his men gun them down. They need to be got rid of, these two chaps. Now, unbeknown to Capone, another guy, a third guy, William McSwiggan. Now, William McSwiggan is a prosecutor, and he's known as the hanging prosecutor. He takes no prisoners. This man, he is out for the death penalty on whatever infraction.
I feel like he really built up his reputation to get away from his name. So I was all like, McSwiggan, would you like another drink? He's like, I'm a serious prosecutor. I will not stand for this anymore. You're mean.
Now, he's tried to prosecute Capone for murder before, but there's just been a lack of evidence. There's been nothing to get him on. So they have this rivalry as well. But he's a public figure. Unknown to Capone, he is with these two enemies. Yeah. And the three of them are gunned down in the street. So now this is not just mob on mob now.
No, this isn't.
He's now taken out public officials, elected officials. And again, this really causes the press and public opinion to go massively against him. Before, when it's just like, mob on mob taking out each other. And
the collateral damage of all of the civilians who are standing there.
But now,
fuck them.
Now he's targeting, public figures and things.
Oh no, this really won't do.
This really won't
do. Did they not see the opening of The Untouchables, that film that has not been made yet?
The public are now completely fed up with this lawlessness, but the police have no evidence for these murders. Yes, they were killed by mobsters who no one is saying anything. Witnesses are staying completely stum, either intimidated or paid off. No one says a bloody word, so they've got nothing to go on. But realising that, okay, that was perhaps a step too far, Capone, he calls for a peace conference amongst all the gangs of Chicago. And they all the leaders of these gangs, they sit down together and they reach an agreement to stop the violence. Mm-hmm. We're going to stop killing each other. It lasts 2 months. They manage to hold off murdering each other for 2 months before the temptation becomes too much. We haven't shot anyone for 8 weeks. What's going on there?
Making it sound like they gave up chocolate.
And then the violence just starts up again. In November 1925, there's another really fascinating incident. Capone's right-hand man, a chap called Antonio Lombardo, he is named the head of the Union Siciliana. This is the Sicilian-American sort of benefit. Mm-hmm. Now, he is named in charge over the head of the next in line. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a chap called Joe Alio. Now, Joe has been pretty much guaranteed that he's going to take over once the current boss is out of the picture. Mm-hmm. But he's now been usurped by Lombardo. And Alio is convinced that, okay, Capone is the one who has done this, who has put this man in over the top of my head, and he is not happy. Lombardo is not even Sicilian. And how dare he come in and take over this sort of Sicilian group. He should be the front of this community, but no, he's been usurped by this Lombardo chap who's been parachuted in by Capone. Elio allies himself with several of Capone's enemies, Capone's rivals, and he plots to eliminate the both of them, Capone and Lombardo. They are going to go. On one occasion, Elio offers money to a chef, the chef of a restaurant called the Bella Napoli Cafe, which is Capone's favourite restaurant in Chicago. Elio goes to the chef and pays him to put prussic acid in Capone's soup.
No. Poison! Yay!
The chef refuses.
Yeah, damn straight.
It goes straight to Capone and says, this chap has asked me to put acid in your soup. So Capone responds by dispatching his men to destroy Elio's bakery. He runs a bakery, and his men fire more than 200 rounds of machine gun fire into the bakery. They wound Elio's brother, Joe, who happens to be in there, destroy the building. It's just riddled with bullets. During the summer of 1927, Elio, he hires a number of hitmen to take out Capone.
Yeah.
He puts out contracts on Capone head. All of them are killed before they can carry out their contract. Eventually, Elio, he offers $50,000 bounty. Anyone who will take out Capone, anyone in the country, $50,000, get rid of this man.
Nice.
10 men try. 10 men end up dead.
Well, he's built up this reputation and this network.
He's built this network. He's built up this network of informants as well. So a lot of people who say, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it," they don't
act alone.
They don't act alone, and they are killed long before they ever get anywhere near to making the attempt.
Yeah.
By early 1929, Capone dominates the illegal liquor trade in Chicago. Other racketeers, they're still trying to muscle their way in to make the most of this profitable business. Another chap who is one of Capone's sort of long-time rivals is a chap called Bugs Moran. Now, Moran, he has previously tried to assassinate both Torrio and Capone. He has failed on both attempts, but now he is after another chap, Capone's sort of top hitman, Machine Gun Jack. Now, yeah, Bugs Moran is right. Okay, he's the next target on their list. Capone finds out about this attempt on Jack's life and decides to make a preemptive strike. On the 14th of February, 1929. Machine Gun Jack's men disguise themselves as police officers.
Yes.
And they conduct a fake raid on Moran's headquarters, a garage in the north side of Chicago. There are 7 men at the warehouse when the raid hits, and they are lined up against the wall, expecting to be handcuffed and arrested and carted off. Yeah. Instead, they are gunned down in cold blood.
The St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Indeed, yes. It becomes known as St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Now, the gunmen had assumed that Moran was one of the men that had been rounded up, but he wasn't. He had actually been running late that day. Yeah. And by the time he arrived at the garage, he sees all this commotion going on, and he's alerted to something very bad is happening, and he manages to make an escape before he is discovered, and he gets himself out. Now, Capone at the time is in Miami. Yes. He's in his Miami home, but no one is under any doubt that he's the one who has orchestrated this. Yes. He is the one responsible for this. Yeah. And the media and the police and the authorities immediately blame him for the massacre. And he is dubbed, from this point on, public enemy number 1.
Public enemy number 1.
Yeah, but they have no evidence to link him to the crime.
Yeah, there's a lot of names being thrown out, isn't there?
They've got no way of linking it to this crime. Now, in response to the massacre, President Herbert Hoover, he orders the federal government to increase their efforts to get Capone, to put him out of business.
Crack down on organised crime.
Exactly, and he orders this crackdown. But despite the murders and the beatings and the bombings and the bootleggings and the loan shark and the intimidation, there's no concrete proof putting Capone behind any of it. However, in 1927, the Supreme Court had ruled that income gained on illegal activities was taxable. The authorities now had the means to trap Capone. In previous raids, they had taken any number of his accounts books and his ledgers and things, and they all had detailed accounts of his business transactions, and they showed that he was making a nice, healthy profit off various businesses. And it also showed that he had paid no tax. He had not declared any of this income to the federal government. And on the 5th of June, 1931, the US government finally indicts Al Capone on 22 counts of income tax evasion. Now, Capone is convinced this is all nonsense.
Silly.
This is all silly, petty nonsense. He's going to get a slap on the wrist. He's going to get a fine. He might spend a couple of years maybe behind bars. His empire will continue. He'll get out early as well. Good behaviour. It's a fucking it's an accounting crime. It's an admin error.
It's a whole thing. Shut up, Elliot Ness.
So exactly. So he is not concerned at all. He decides not to risk a jury trial, and he says he makes a deal with prosecutors. He will plead guilty, and they give him a 2.5 year sentence.
Yes.
He thinks 2.5 years. I'll play nice. I'll be out in 1. My empire will still be there, still be waiting. All will be well. The case goes before a judge. The judge goes, fuck that. I am not accepting that plea deal.
Yeah.
Not happening. And the judge forces a jury trial.
Nice.
Capone instantly falls back on his go-to activities. Yeah. Intimidation and bribery of jury members. He is not going to go down for this.
Crisp $5 note might change your mind. You want more? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. And Capone is quite confident. He has got an army of men going around, intimidating people's families, paying people off. It's all good. No way is he going to be found guilty of this. With about a week to go at the trial, the judge switches the jury out.
It does.
The judge goes, right, all you guys, off you go, and brings in a brand new jury. Capone has got no time to figure out who these people are, to organise people to go and threaten their families, to go and pay them off or anything like this. And this jury find him guilty. And he is sentenced to 11 years in prison.
Ooh.
He spends the first 2 years of his incarceration in Atlanta, in a federal prison in Atlanta. But then after he is caught bribing guards in Atlanta, he is transferred to Alcatraz. Now he is Alcatraz. Famously, he is one of the first inmates to arrive at Alcatraz. And there he is completely cut off from his network. Yeah. He has got no way of getting money in or out or bribing these guards or prison wardens or anything like that. He is completely alone in Alcatraz. On top of that, the syphilis. The syphilis that he has been ignoring for so long is starting to bite. It really is. It has progressed. It's made its way into his bloodstream, up to his brain, and has developed into what was then termed neurosyphilis. Yes. It's now affecting his brain, and it's starting to cause dementia. He starts to hallucinate. He develops frequent fits, and he seems incapable of following the simplest of orders from guards and wardens. He just doesn't understand. He's not able to comprehend. Now, his wife, May, she is there alongside her husband all the way through this, and she petitions the governor at Alcatraz, like, he is not well. You can see that he is not well. Yeah. You need to let him out of here. And eventually, after serving 3 years in Alcatraz, he is released into the custody of a Baltimore medical hospital. Yeah. He is sent to this hospital to try and recuperate. He's one of the first people to be prescribed penicillin. It makes bugger all difference. It's far too little too late by this point. He remains in the Baltimore hospital for another 3 years. He is then released from there in May's charge, and they move back down to Miami, to Florida, where he's got his home for the good weather indeed. Now, while he's there, he spends much of his time searching for buried treasure that he has become convinced is on the property somewhere.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow. I mean, it's all in his head. He also has spirited conversations with long-dead friends walking around the place. The FBI did a final check-in with him in 1946, and they found that Capone had the mental capacity of a 12-year-old by this point.
Hey, 12-year-olds are sprightly. They can rob a bank.
And they love buried treasure.
They love buried treasure. I mean, it sounds like a standard weekend for me. Yeah. I'll frequently look for buried treasure and talk to people who are dead.
Al Capone died on the 25th of January 1947 of a cardiac arrest after suffering a stroke a few days prior. His obituary, provided by his family, ran, "Death had beckoned him for years, as stridently as a Cicero whore calling to a cash customer.
Jesus.
But Big Al had not been born to pass out on a sidewalk or a coroner's slab. He died like a rich Neapolitan, in bed in a quiet room with his family sobbing near him and a soft wind murmuring in the trees outside." New York Times, on the other hand, went with "End of an evil dream." Slightly,
like it.
Slightly, different connotations. But his legacy remains to this day the most notorious and quintessential mobster who ever lived.
Al Capone.
Al Capone.
Yay! Oh, good story, Nick. Good story. Now, you didn't mention Elliot Ness.
I didn't.
But also, he's very boring.
He's
so boring. We've mentioned him in other stories.
We have come across him in other stories. And he doesn't feature hugely in the Capone tale, it has to be said. He's not quite Untouchable's sort of film level of involvement.
Very much blown up in as many things were in the film.
Yes, true enough.
So let everyone just shut up about Elliot Ness. He's not important.
He was around, but it wasn't quite as critical as some people think he is.
Yeah. Oh, great story. He's just a fascinating character. With the ending there of him going to Alcatraz. We can't say Alcatraz without going Alcatraz. No one will survive. No, they've gone to Alcatraz. I've seen his cell. I've seen where he stayed. Yeah, it's just a cell.
So, yeah.
I'm going to say that. It wasn't just fancy. But the ending for him, the wonderful irony, really, of him being such a mathematical kind of, whiz kid and everything, and then he's done for tax evasion.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But him being in Alcatraz and him having the syphilis and it succumbing, I don't know whether that was due to his age or is that just a coincidence of time, or is it that he wasn't getting maybe the medicine that he'd had previously on the sly for treating syphilis?
I don't know. I think it takes time to develop into the state that it's going to start affecting your brain. I think it takes a good number of years for that to really develop into something.
But then it takes a good number of years for it to disintegrate your brain, really, to get to that level of dementia, which maybe he was at by coincidence. So maybe he wasn't getting medicine, maybe he wasn't getting penicillin on the sly because obviously he felt shame. Let's assume he felt shame about getting treatment for syphilis. Others have surmised that his violent behaviour was down to the syphilis taking hold, was really, tearing apart the reasonable parts of his brain and going, let's bomb everything. So, well, maybe. I don't know.
I don't.
I think that's a bit less. Maybe it contributed, but I think it was probably a passage of time there. I think it's more likely he didn't get his treatment.
Yeah.
That he was maybe getting in the background. I may be wrong on that. And then ends up digging for buried treasure and just, that's crazy. But the showboating nature of his of his crimes, to really go for that.
I mean, he was not afraid. No one could connect him to these things, but he wasn't afraid of making it known that he was behind this stuff.
Let's go big or go home.
There was no evidence to link him to this stuff. So,
well, what evidence could there be at the time before DNA?
And he's not the one planting bombs himself.
No.
He did get hands-on when he wanted to. But on the whole, he is there issuing orders, and it's the lesser sort of, it's the foot soldiers who are doing the dirty work.
I mean, if you've recruited the foot soldiers, and if you recruited all these people, and you've built up this reputation, that whether you get your hands dirty once in a while or anyone else is doing it, no one is going to talk. No one is going to mention anything. So everyone knows you're the boss of bosses, but who's going to... And also, everyone's in your pocket. You're paying the police, you're paying the government, you're paying all the officials to look the other way. So I guess you can kind of afford to go showboating. I mean, it's a tactic.
It's bold and brash, and he certainly was that.
Other criminals have done it. Other crime bosses and other people like that have done it. As in, I'm going to be really big and large, so you will know who's the head of this family, who's the head of the household. Yeah, I like it. But also, bombing was drastic. Yeah. That is switching from Robin Hood, kind of like, I'm going to give stuff back. Fuck it, I'm going to blow up this neighborhood.
Blow up the
so you all know that it's me. Like, could you not? There's children. This is my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really making a statement there.
Oh, God, yes.
On everything. What a fascinating character. And what a time to not be alive.
It's a terrifying time.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. There was nothing to drink.
So,
unless you bought it off him at a hugely
and if you
inflated
didn't, you got
price.
blown up.
You got blown up. I mean, everyone please do weigh in with the films if you want to, because he's almost sort of surpassed any kind of interpretation based on his life, because everyone thinks they know something about him based on the original Scarface, the remake of Scarface, which is obviously nothing to do with about Tony Montana, and not and with The Godfather, with The Untouchables, with all these things that are sort of composites of various mobsters, and then Al Capone bleeds into some of them. So no one really knows what's true, and they all go, well, here he is going top of the world, man. That's not Al Capone, by the way, but yeah, he's sort of too much of a legend.
Yeah.
Almost. What's true and what's everyone weighing in over the years, going, well, I knew Al Capone and my grandfather worked with him and I know this and I know that, you know. Yeah, it's nicely leads into, weirdly, there's a connection with the book club from the Poisonous Cabinet. So we do have the Belladonna book club.
Okay.
The book that we have been reading this month.
It's the Life and Times of Al Capone?
It's not the Life and Times of Al Capone. It is Axeman's Jazz, which is by Ray Celestine. Personally, I really enjoyed. But it's a series. The second one, Dead Man's Blues, features Al Capone. So there you go. Will the coincidences never cease? Well, what do you think, people? What do you think of the story of Al Capone? What do you think of Al Capone as a mobster? Did you know anything about his life and his times before Nick regaled us with this story? Did you know a lot about Al Capone? Are there other little tidbits that you'd like to share with us? Do you know nothing about him other than what you've watched in the movies or read in fiction books? And would you like to throw in your little stories or facts that you thought you knew, but also really good scenes from cinema and TV? We love all of those. Tell us what you think. Jump on the comments of wherever you listen to this episode. Share your thoughts, your theories, your feelings, your musings, your film references. But most importantly, while you do all of this, you must mix up a South Side.
Oh, it's very good.
It's so good.
Gone down a treat.
It's a classic.
That's two in a row. We've had some really good cocktails.
2 in a row. It is a classic for a reason. It is simple. And guys, it is just perfect.
Yep, and you will all have the ingredients for this. A bottle of gin, bit of mint, some limes and some sugar. Not more yet, but the recipe will be out on Friday. So yeah, do give it a go. I heartily recommend it. And it's damn tasty.
I heartily recommend go easy on the mint.
Easy on the mint.
Less is more, people. Do not pile that shit in there like you're in mojito country, because we're not there. Share your pictures of the cocktails you were enjoying this weekend or any time that you are listening to this episode, or more cocktails that you are enjoying out in your life. If you're sharing them on social media, share them to stories, tag us in grid posts so that we can share them to our stories. We love to see them. If you can, please do consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. 5-star reviews massively help the show and we so appreciate it. We are over on Patreon if you want to join us there, and we're also around for a chat if you can reach us by carrier pigeon.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisonous Cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.